Get into the music, listen, listen to what's being played. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Don't get distracted with the phone. Put it away. You'll live. That's my advice.
Today is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Who are we speaking with?
Jose Bonilla.
Thank you for making the time today. Let's get into it. So many ways to begin. Uh, let's just go from the beginning. Where were you born and where'd you grow up?
Okay, Brooklyn, New York. Born and raised in Brooklyn, really, most of my life. Uh, uh, in Brownsville section of Brooklyn. It was tough back then, growing up, and yeah, we uh, lived on Pitkin Avenue, and it was rough, man. John Lindsay was mayor. Now I'm going back. Now I'm showing my age. Um, yeah, so growing up in Brownsville, East New York, got to learn, use these a little bit. And me and my brother, and yeah, as you can see, light skinned, they didn't believe we were Puerto Rican, thought we were white, me and my brother, but we certainly didn't fight that way. So we got we got the respect real quick. you know. Yeah, so lived there for a while and then moved out to my family moved out to the Coney Island section of Brooklyn. Again, another rough area. We Puerto Ricans, we kind of just follow the flow of what other families are doing. And it seemed at that time, a lot of Puerto Ricans were moving into the Coney Island section. And I think my dad followed a good friend of his who had moved over there. And then in my teen years, that's really where, I got my what is it, my love for music from the rides, believe it or not. Some of those Coney Island rides were playing great music. Um, the Himalaya comes to mind right away,
I
you
was
know.
going to mention the sound system at the Himalaya. I literally would stand there for 6 hours just for that bass.
Yes, yes. I mean, you're right. They had a great sound system, and during the summers, my brother and I would work a lot of those concessions in Coney Island. So we got to know a lot of those guys that were playing the music. This dude by the name of Dennis would be playing a lot of the music on the Himalaya, and he would just turn me on to a lot of the stuff that he was playing. And me and my brother would go out buy the 45, buy the album like that. So that's what, that whole thing, Coney Island was really the start for me with music. Just that, wasn't house music back then. It was more the R&B classics, Aretha Franklin, Supremes, a lot of that stuff, a lot of Motown, Jackson 5, that sort of thing. So yeah, Santana would be played. They would play Evil Ways. Man, Evil Ways sounded great on that Himalayan sound system. But yeah, that's really how I got that my taste for music back then. And in the Himalaya you'd hear everything from R&B to pop, some rock songs back then. Like the Rolling Stones, Beatles stuff. He'd play a little bit of everything, but it was mostly R&B, mostly R&B. And that's what gave me the love of music and records back then.
I also want to give some shout out to the El Dorado Bump and Disco because that sound system in there was also rocking.
Oh yeah, I knew the guy who ran it. And yeah, but that came later on. Yeah, actually, I tried to get him into my record pool, but we'll go back to that later. But yeah, he that was a Richard Long sound system in there. That's still there today, by the way. That system is still there today. Yeah. Scott Finland was the guy who put together that whole sound system. It was his family's business, the bumper cars. I think it was his granddad. And when he got in there and started running it for his family, he decided, he wanted to install a bumping sound system, I guess, to compete with the Himalaya. And boy, did he install a great system in there. It outlived him.
Yeah, I just remember many times going to Coney Island and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go catch the subway now. And then El Dorado is playing something because it's on the way to the subway, right? El
Right,
Dorado
that's right.
bumping. I'm like, ooh, and then one more song. Oh, that's my jam. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, they're playing. Yeah, so I know
Oh,
exactly what you mean.
and they had some great air conditioning too, man. On those
Yeah,
hot days, on those hot days, and you'd be like looking inside, feeling um, that cold air just coming out from that ride,
yeah.
uh, along with the heavy boom, boom,
Cool.
boom. Yeah, yeah.
It
He
just it's that bass just sounded so warm. It's just so
mhm.
good. So good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the closest you're gonna get, I guess, to like a garage sound system, a mini version of that, because Scott really was trying to just uh, mimic that humongous sound system, which you couldn't do in that small space, but he wanted to have that quality sound, that quality Richard Long sound, um, in there, and he was really adamant about getting that system, putting that system together. And if you notice till today, he still has a lot of the lights that the garage used to have, the those beacons that used to turn around, those police beacons. That was inspired by the Paradise Garage.
Let's thank you for that sharing that. Let's go into tell us a story about uh drifting on Coney Island Avenue.
Drifting, yeah, that was my first job as a DJ. The drifting on Coney Island Avenue. Yeah, it was like a bar that had a big dance floor in the back. So, you'd walk in, it was dark, smoky in there because that time everybody smoked. Um, the bar, the minute you walked in, the bar was right to the right, and it was like this long, narrow bar that led you right out to the dance floor. And they had a little area there that we, almost like a little DJ booth, and a dance floor with a small stage there. They were looking for a DJ. They wanted, disco was just starting out. They wanted to have a DJ. Um, a friend of mine told me that they were looking for a DJ, so I went down there, and I played a few records, and they were like, "Okay, you got the job." I had no idea what I was doing. Okay, but yeah, back then it was just basic turntables, not even nothing with pitch control on it or direct drive. It was just two regular turntables, a Radio Shack mixer that was probably about this big, and of course, there was no cue. So you had to put the record on the turntable and cue it with your ear, and um, that was how we played records back then. Some of the records that we're playing, Gloria Gaynor, Honeybee comes to mind right away. That was a very popular record there. Donna Summer, I Love to Love You, Baby. When that record first came out, um, we were playing it in Brooklyn. So yeah, that was just some of the things and there was really no mixing. It was more like dropping the record right in. There was no blending, and there were a few other clubs in Brooklyn, but they were mostly in Bay Ridge. Um, the drifting was I guess, in the Flatland section of Brooklyn. So yeah, we were rocking it there. It was me and a guy by the name of George Burke. We were the two DJs, and I do Wednesday night, he do Friday night, do Saturday night, he do Sunday night, like that. And we'd swap records with each other, and there was a Crazy Eddie right up the block. Yeah, right on Kings Highway, right there on Kings Highway, right off Coney Island Avenue. So before I went to work, I'd go into Crazy Eddie's, buy the latest 45s, bring them into the drifting disco, play them like that. Um, yeah, back then, that's how you got the crowd going. You bought your own records back then, and well, it's funny how everything goes full circle because now DJs have to buy their music nowadays. And I guess we'll go into how I got into a record pool from there.
That's my
Uh,
next question. Tell us about the record pool and tell us about Joey Madonia.
yeah, Joey Madonia was a guy who was in the mix with David Mancuso and the Loft. He was a sound guy, a sound engineer guy, really knew, he was mostly an electrician by trade, but got into the sound thing, I guess, through David Mancuso. And he'd help David tune up the sound system on nights that David would be playing the parties, like that. And he happened to live right around the corner from the Drift-In Disco. Um, and he just happened to walk in one night. I was playing records. We got to chatting. He was telling me about the Loft, about David Mancuso, who's got this record pool. And that, he asked me how I got my records. I was telling him I was buying them. And he was like, wow, man, I know a guy that gets records from record companies and hands them out to DJs for free. All you got to do is pay a monthly dues and you'll get the latest releases. And I'm like, really? I said, okay. Um, and Joey introduced me to David. Um, David signed me right up. Next thing I knew, I was walking out with like hundreds of records. I mean, I'm talking about like stacks of records, like stacks like this, stacks of records we'd walk out with and um, just throw them in the trunk of my car and just couldn't wait to get home to go through them and play them and listen to them. And at that time, I had no idea that David Mancuso was really the founder of the very first record pool for DJs DJs. It didn't have a name really. It was just 99 Prince Street Record Pool. And he ran it out of his loft in the basement part of the loft. It had two levels. It had the main level where you walk in street level, and then it had the basement where he would set up the bins for the DJs, and the DJs would come and collect their records there. Um, and so he had that going on. And then on the weekends, he would throw his famous loft parties, which I had no idea about again until Joey Madonia had told me about experiencing that firsthand. Totally changed my world.
That's my
Totally changed my world. I had never heard a sound system like that. Um, and I had never heard records sound that way in a room. It just, you walk into the loft and it was like a vacuum of, the outside world didn't exist anymore. It was just that world of David Mancuso, dancers, and his music. I mean, I've never heard music sound so uh, I don't know. The quality of the sound of that came out of those speakers was like I've never heard before. And he had these tweeters, these cluster of tweeters that I've never seen before. He had two in the front, two towards the back, balloons all over the ceiling that would light up with different lights behind it, curtains, these huge curtains that would just cover the walls. It looked like a tent. Um, and David Mancuso, if you know what he looks like, he had long hair, he had a beard, and he had a DJ booth. Um, and while he was playing records, it was very, the lights were very low in there, wasn't bright in there at all. And you'd look at him in the DJ booth, and it would be like he looked like Jesus Christ. I mean, that's the only way to describe him. The long hair, the beard, you know, playing music for his disciples. It was just something I've never ever experienced in my life. Dave Mancuso, a pioneer, totally
uh,
pioneer. DJs too. I'm sorry.
oh no, no, perfect. Um,
He other DJs will go there to listen to him. I mean, those parties would start depending on when he just got in the mood to start. Normally they start probably about 10, 11 o'clock. and they'd go well into the next day, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. David was in the mood, 12 noon. I mean, yeah, those were all night parties, and a lot of hallucinogenics were going on back then too. Hey, I stayed away from that punch bowl, that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, experiencing David Mancuso, it's really hard to put in words. It really is. Cat Ayala maybe can explain it a little bit better as a dancer. Um, um, as someone like me, I've just never seen anything like that. He had a crew of people working for him too. And when you went to his parties, you made a donation, and it was invite only. It was the first of its kind club to be an invite only club. If you weren't a member, you couldn't get in unless a member invited you to come to the party. So yeah, uh, it was just those were amazing times. I'm talking 1976, 1977, 1978, like that. And you'd see people like Nicky Siano, who also had a club across the street called the Gallery. So he'd compete with David Mancuso. And he kind of mimicked David's sound system, but not to the point like the way Nicky was louder with his sound system. David was very just kind of, you know, uh, mid-rangey. He wasn't big on bass, but that came later on too. Um, a lot of DJs used to just stop by, go in there. I saw Francois Kavakian in there. He would hang out a lot of times in there back then. Nicky Siano would stop by. Larry Levan, before he became famous, worked for David. So, yeah, Judy Weinstein worked for David Mancuso. They all did. They started there. They got their roots there. Um, especially Larry. Um, Larry learned from David everything about sound, about uh, about having that sound quality, about having that acoustics in a room. The way David would make sure that that room was perfect for sound. Larry years later went on and did the same things. Nicky Siano to some extent as well. But yeah, those were just amazing times. Um, you put on a record and David, and you just, I don't know, you'd go home just thinking about that sound system. You know, have you ever experienced it, Moema? Have you ever experienced a David
I
Mancuso
found
loft
out
party?
I found out about the loft late, so I missed the golden era. So I missed 99 Prince,
Mm,
missed Broadway, I missed Avenue C. The
yeah,
time I discovered it was at the tail end. So this one, he when he was trying to find a home, I remember he did it once, like on the second or third floor, like on 14th Street, just off of Third Avenue.
right.
And I experienced that like a couple of times. And this is no shade, but it didn't do it for me because I felt like everything that I'd heard about the loft wasn't
Yeah,
what I saw at that time. And I realized sometimes there's a moment and I missed the moment of what
uh,
it was still good, but it wasn't what everyone had told me about. So
right. I mean, the magic, in my opinion, was 99 Prince Street. Once he moved out of there, it was never the same again. I mean, I stopped going to a lot of it. When he went to Avenue C, it just wasn't the same. I mean, he had, his turntables on like plastic tables. It seemed like a hall that he rented. Um, it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. The 99 Prince Street was a beautiful loft. He had, the basement level too. And I don't know. I mean, he kept the parties going. He certainly got well known throughout the world. Um, so I got to say that, David kept the legacy going, and I'll always respect that because he was the first to do it.
talk to
Um,
me about once you discovered the loft, how often would you go? Would you go like once a month, once a year? Like what was your frequency of going?
I went quite frequent. I'd get out of work and go. You know, at that time, um, let me see, trying to think the year, 1977. That was my first year at Trudy Heller's, which was on 6th Avenue and West 8th Street. Small club, cabaret club. They'd have live entertainment with a band playing. Elephant's Memory was like the house band there. And, you know, DJ setup was in the corner there. And, you know, I'd play there till 4 o'clock in the morning, like on a Friday night. I'm sorry, Saturday night. And then once I got out of work, I'd go straight to the loft. So if I got out at 4, I got to the loft about 4:30, 5 o'clock, stayed till about 7, 8 o'clock, depending on how good the party was going, and how good those drugs were kicking in, uh, like that. So, yeah, and then, so I went quite often. I went, oh, I'd say I went about twice a month, maybe 3 times a month, like that. Kept it going for a few years, actually. Yeah, yeah. So I got to be, uh, I got to really experience David, get to know him a little bit. Um, you know, he was a complicated individual, but a genius. I got to say, he was a genius. Um, you know, I learned a lot from him. I learned, you know, about music. I learned um, so many different, about so many different records back then that you didn't hear anywhere else. You know, you only heard it at the loft. Um, uh, just give you an example. See this record right here? Always There. Side Effect. I only heard this record at the loft back then when it first came out. You didn't hear it at other clubs like Xenon, Studio 54, only at the loft. And then later on, Larry Levan at the Paradise Garage. Um, so yeah,
Explain to people before we go to the garage, explain to people the difference between an underground club like the Loft and the Garage and the commercial clubs back then.
underground clubs were members only. In other words, you became a member if you were invited, either by David or one of David's staff members or a member that's been going to the law for a while. And only through membership were you allowed into the club and like that. So, and you would give a donation too, where regular clubs like Xenon Studio 54, you know, you pay the admission to get in. They serve alcohol. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's a major thing. They didn't serve alcohol at the loft. It was a juice bar. Um, Bananas, apples, oranges, a huge punch bowl that was that was spiked most of the times with acid. Um, so most people were really on a nice trip in there. I mean, very friendly. Everybody was loving one another. I don't think I've ever seen a fight ever break out at the loft, an argument or a fight, nothing like that. But yeah, the difference between a place like the loft and the Paradise Garage was members only. And the only way you got in there, if you weren't a member, was through a member inviting you or a staff member inviting you to go. And then you would apply, and I guess on the application, you know, they on the application would ask you, you know, who invited you. You put the name of the member or the name of the staff member, and boom, you got your membership. And yeah, that is the difference. One was membership only. The other is just, you know, anybody can just go to those parties. And that's what made them exclusive, private, no alcohol, big thing. And you know, you'd go to Studio 54, you're drinking alcohol. Never smell weed. You walk into the loft, that's all you smell is weed.
Tell us your favorite memory from the Loft.
My favorite memory of the loft. David Mancuso playing Anambra by Ozo. I think I might have that album here. And if you've heard that record, sort of like a chanty kind of religious record. Um, and David looking like Jesus, and I mean, I'm tripping my ass off. And he's playing this record. I'm hearing it for the first time. It's sort of like a chant kind of record. And people are just moving to the chant. And I'm looking at David, and David is like, he seems like he's doing this. It was a Jesus moment for me, um, in watching that, and just the sound of those tweeters, all the sound just moving from one tweeter set to the other, just all around the room. That's something I will never forget. Never. Um, how that moment where David just had everybody sort of like in a trance and going, just with the music all at once. It was something I'll never forget. And looking around, just seeing, it looked like the inside of an Arabian tent. It was a moment that, like, wow, here's Jesus playing music for me. you know, um, yeah, so there were many nights like that. I mean, David just, he'd take you on journeys, man, on journeys. Best way to describe it, peaks and lows, peaks and lows. He'd go hours just cooling out, and then all of a sudden he'd, throw in something like an always there, and just the whole place would just explode with energy. Yeah, he knew when and what record to play and at what time. He was a genius that way. Um, and I got to learn a lot from him. And he never mixed, by the way. He wasn't a guy that blended records. The record would just fade and then the next one will come in. There was never that that mixing thing with him, like with other DJs. So that's what made him unique, and stand out from others. It was all about the music, not about the mix. So yeah, you
T-
you learned.
Tell us about how you discovered about the Paradise Garage, and tell us about the first time you went to the garage and what that experience was like, and what did you see, hear, feel, experience?
Um, through Judy Weinstein, she had told me that Larry, who was the DJ at Reed Street at that time, was going to be playing at this place on King Street. It didn't even have a name. I think they were referring to it as construction parties, and that these underground parties with Larry Levan were going to start taking place, and that we should come and check it out and pass the word to other DJs and so on. So yeah, I went there, and it was in a smaller room. If you experienced the Paradise Garage, once you got into the room, the first room you stepped into was the crystal room, and that's where the construction parties were taking place, where the crystal room eventually was built. And it was a smaller room. It was a small space. And there was Larry playing on a table, like a fold-out table, um, with these huge fans blowing. I mean, I'm talking about those big, sporting event fans. He had about 4 or 5 of them, um, throughout uh, throughout the room. And the place was being constructed. The main room was being constructed, and those parties were starting to be known as the under construction parties. And by the way, they would give you a little wrench. Another membership was the wrench for those construction parties, which I so wish I still had. Oh my God, how I wish I still had that little wrench. Um, they I joined in the membership, and as a DJ back then, I got comped a lot. I didn't have to pay. And being part of the Prince Street pool like that. So uh, that little wrench, man, is how you got in. Yeah, it was crazy. And those parties were so hot in there that I could tell you one time what I remember the most is inviting Danny Crivet there. Um, he was the other DJ at Trudy Heller's, and I invited him to come with me to the construction party. And we had, decided Danny had uh, these little, I guess, cookies that were spiked with weed or something. So we get there, we ate it, we eat these little cookies, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling like drops hitting me on my shoulder. I'm like looking up, what the heck is going on? Danny is like looking up also, like, what is going on? Music's playing, the lights all of a sudden go on real bright, and I see the entire ceiling from the condensation, from all the bodies, from all the heat. It built condensation in the ceiling, and it started raining. It started raining on us. Um, it was so hot in there, and people were just freaking out. And it would fall on the fans, and the fans were blowing the water onto people. It was a trip, man. And Larry had to at one point. I remember Larry opening the umbrella and holding it over the turntable so the turntables would not get wet. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's an experience I'll never forget. And if you ever interview Danny Crivet, ask him about that. Yeah, I was the one that introduced him to the Paradise Garage. So yeah, um,
What
don't
was
know if you know Danny, but
I do, I do, I do.
okay.
I photographed 718 sessions for the first 15 years. So
Oh yeah. Oh,
I've got an incredible archive. Yeah. So
oh no way. Okay. So you know Danny well. Okay, good. Yeah, ask him about that. Yeah, he'll tell you.
what was it like to be in VIP at the garage and who did you meet there?
VIP. Okay. VIP at the Paradise Garage. Yeah. Um, the VIP was you had to go up these stairs, these like metal stairs that took you into the DJ booth. And Larry's booth was like the size of my apartment. I mean, it was huge. With a VIP area with couches, which is when you walked in, the VIP area was right there, and you made the right, and there was Larry behind his console. Um, yeah. So as a DJ for the record, um, you got the VIP comp, and you were able to go up there in the VIP room and hang out with Larry, chat with Larry a little bit. Um, or if you had a record, you give him the record, a new release, whatever. Um, Larry was very inviting guy. But he had his moments too, where if he wanted the booth private, he would just ask everyone to leave, and he'd have his moods too, which I understand. But yeah, hanging out the booth, you'd meet, Madonna. Madonna was up there one time. I'm hanging out, looking over. Who do I see? Madonna hanging out right to my left. Yeah, with Jelly Bean. So yeah, those were moments. The Stones, the Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger was there one time, hanging out, taking pictures of Larry. So yeah, Frankie Crocker on certain nights would be up there. Um, you get the who's who of the music business inside that VIP lounge area. It was, just a small area with couches, overlooking the entire dance floor, man. I mean, yeah, you got to see what Larry got to see, hanging out in that VIP. Yeah, because Larry was just a few feet away, and the VIP area was open with this bar that so you can lean into the bar and kind of look over. Um, but you saw what Larry was seeing, and that what was so great about that VIP lounge was that you're experiencing or you're seeing and hearing what Larry is seeing and hearing. So yeah, it was quite unique to be able to see the garage from that perspective, seeing it high up and looking down and seeing that sea of bodies just moving all you know, in at the same time. Um, just amazing. You know, Joey Lanos was doing security back then, and he'd be up there a lot of times. David DePino would be up there. Sometimes he would play for Larry, you know, step in and just play for Larry Levan. Those were, I got to say, that sound system, again, Joey Madonia. Joey Madonia would tune up that sound system with Larry. He'd work with Larry before opening the place. He'd work with Larry to, you know, make sure certain speakers were, you know, positioned right, or if something needed to be tweaked as far as sound goes. Um, yeah, so Joey had a major part to play, you know, in the early beginnings of the Paradise Garage, and later on as well. Uh, he at some point was doing lights too. So um, yeah, it's I tell you, the Paradise Garage, there will never be another place like that, Wemma. Never. There will never be another club with the quality of sound system like what the Paradise Garage had.
That's
Um,
my next question. Would a place like the garage work today? Why or why not?
that's a good question. Would a place like the Garage work today? I don't think so. Because back then we didn't have these things right here. We didn't have phones. Um, it was all about the music going in there and just dancing all night long, listening to music. That's really what it was all about. The attention uh, back then was for Larry. Nowadays, I see a lot of people on the phones, they're videotaping, they're taking pictures. It's all about that um, versus getting into the music. They're getting into Instagram, they're getting into TikTok, they're getting into Facebook. They're not getting into the music. You know, they're they, they don't have. I think that today um, the younger generation doesn't have that focus. They don't have a love for music like the way we did, where we just went out and we'd hear a song. We'd be in the record store the next day buying it, you know. Or you know, I'd be going home going, wait a minute, I got that record at the record pool that Larry's playing. Wait a minute, I'd go home, start looking through my records, you know. You know, Larry said, yeah, I got this from Judy. You got it. Yeah. Yeah. Many times, by the way, many times. Yeah. That's happened to me many times. So, but you know, Larry was a genius. You know, he, there were records that he was responsible for, you know, Tanner Gardner Heartbeat, um, Sentimentally It's You, Theo Vaness. I mean, you may hear that record anywhere but the Paradise Garage. Um, you know, there were so many others that that Larry would play that were exclusive to only that club that you didn't hear anywhere else, which is why Frankie Crocker was there all the time because he would hear stuff that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. And you know, Frankie wanted to play it on his radio station like that. Um, so he always had his ear for new stuff, Frankie Crocker. Um, yeah. So just answering your question, no, I don't think it will work today. However, Joey Lanos and David DePino and to some extent, I guess Danny Krivit, they're throwing parties. But you know, it's an older crowd. Though I do see younger people in there, but again, you know, I see a lot of this. There's not a lot of there's a lot of yeah. So I just think that that is the difference. Um, you know, I actually and also COVID changed a lot of things too. You know, with being in a closed room, I think COVID changed the whole thing with being inside a club for a long time. Um, you know, back then when we were in there, when you'd be in the garage for, you know, I don't know, 7, 8 hours, you know, going through your ups and downs with the music. and you get out and, you go to the beach the next day. Um, you didn't worry about viruses back then. You didn't worry about getting sick back then. Now, yeah, you got to worry about, catching COVID or, or there's another virus too. But, I mean, as you get older, I guess I'm more aware of that now. So I actually, my going out, I've actually pulled that back, um, for health reasons. Um, don't want to be in a hospital, with COVID-19 or whatever, or any other virus. But I think that, those are the changes. But Danny's still going strong, man. Joey Lano's still going strong. Yeah, they're doing great parties. Though Joey Lanos doesn't invite me anymore. Uh, he got
Hope,
tired of inviting me not showing, you know.
hopefully after he watches this, he'll.
I still love him. We have the same birthday, so yeah, we're brothers in that sense. Yeah.
How
Um,
how did Larry Levan's approach to DJing differ for others that you know?
oh man, Larry was a pioneer in a lot of ways with discovering stuff that he liked and that he would play over and over and over again until you heard what he heard, um, or you feel what he was feeling about that song. Um, Larry, the difference between Larry was, I think his selection of music was amazing. Again, he learned a lot of that from David Mancuso, being unique in choices in music and only playing those really quality songs. Um, you know, um, You Can't Hide Love by David Joseph. That was a huge garage record. Did you hear it anywhere else? Did you hear it in Studio 54, or did you hear it? Maybe the Loft would play. Yeah, maybe David was playing that as well. But you didn't hear it anywhere else in the other clubs, Infinity or, any of those other clubs that were around back then. Um, uh, you just didn't hear them. You Can't Hide Love, David Joseph. And this one right here. This one right here. Okay. See that? See what that is? LOV got a hold on me. Okay. Classic, classic loft record and garage record. You didn't hear it anywhere else. You didn't hear it anywhere else. So what made Larry unique was his choice of music and how he worked that sound system. He was the early guy of the isolator. He was the first to really do it, to work that sound, work that bass, that work those highs, take out that mid range. He was the first to really do it, to work his crowd that way into a frenzy. He'd do it. Um, um, I don't recall a DJ before Larry doing that. Um, now uh, what's this guy? Now it's a big thing with other DJs doing it with the crossover now. With the crossover effect. Clausel is known to do that. Um, but Larry was the first to do it. Larry would also know how to just take his crowd on this ride, man. He'd just take you on this ride. Sometimes it'd be bumpy, other times it'd be real smooth, other times it'd be intense and fierce. Um, um, Again, I believe that he learned that from Mancuso. Yeah. So yeah, what made Larry unique was his choice of music, his choice of knowing when to play a song. Um, if you went, Studio 54 was a very popular club then. It also had a Richard Lawn sound system, by the way. There was Bonds back then. It was just all DJs were different. Everybody was different, but nobody was as memorable as David Mancuso and Larry Levan. They would just, you just leave those clubs just knowing, that you have to get these records.
Tell us about working at Vinyl Mania.
Vinyl Mania. Yeah, my
Tell people what Vinylmania was first.
Vinyl Mania started as a little store in the village, and it was Charlie and and his wife Debbie. He was a school teacher who wanted to have a little thing on the side, and he decided to open up a record store in the village on Carmine Street, and he had a lot of rock stuff. He had a lot of jazz. He loved jazz. He was more a jazz guy. And he was buying records at that time to just sell. So he would, people would just come in there and just sell him records and that sort of thing early on. So early on was just him, his wife, and his brother Richie. And Danny, who lived in the village, he lived on 12th Street, used to go in there and just find these records. And he got to know Charlie and say, "Hey, listen, man, some of this stuff you have, you can sell for a lot more money, you know." So Charlie said to him, "I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about, this disco 12-inch. What is that?" And Danny said to Charlie, "Well, I know a guy who can possibly help you out in finding out about all of this, about the value of some of these 12 inches that you have. He may want to help you. I'll pass it on." Um, Danny told me about Charlie. At that time, I had a daughter. She was born in 1979. This was 1980. So I was already hustling two clubs. Back then, it was Trudy Heller's and this place called Le Trapeze. And I said, "You know what? I'll take it. Sure. I'll go there in there and help them. Yeah. Let me get some money and I'll be more than happy to do it for you." So Charlie would pay me in cash. That was great. So I went in there and I started helping Charlie with identifying. He didn't know anything about the 12-inch record. He had an idea about promos, but he didn't know the value of certain 12 inches that were released promotionally only, and how they were rare. Again, I'm going to go with this right here and this right here and this. Okay, these records here were very rare. Were released in a short. Um, maybe they pressed maybe 5,000 of them back then. And Charlie had records like that inside his bin that he was selling for 99 cents. I said to him, "Listen, you can get $50 for that record." "Really?" "Yeah." So he hired me on to help him identify um, what was what as far as um, dance music went, as far as 12-inch dance music went. And that's when The Wire in his store, was born. We would we would put these records up on The Wire and sell them $25, $50, $75, depending on the rarity of it. Something like this went probably $100, probably still worth money. Um, Something like this would be worth maybe about $40. Talk about back then. Now it's probably worth more. I don't know. We also used to sell this a lot. I'm showing you records that were up, hanging up on The Wire. These were the choices I would make. Here's one by Johnny Hammond, Los Conquistadores Chocolates. This record went for money, about 35, $40 back then, depending on the condition, of course. Um, let's see, what else we got? Here's a Donna Summer 12-inch that went for about, I don't know, 45, $50. This was released as a promo only. See this? I don't know if you could read that. It was a promo only. Okay, Donna Summer, um, With Your Love, which had a more extended version on it, 735. And I think the album was only, I think, 6 minutes long. So yeah, this went for about 40, $50. Stuff like Brainstorm, we're on our way home. This went for about 70, $75, easy. So these were the records that were just hanging on the wires. We put clothespins on them. Yeah, it worked. It worked. So yeah, that's what got started. That's how Vinyl Mania got started with the dance music thing. And of course, being down the block from the Paradise Garage helped a lot too. People will come in and go, "Oh, listen, I heard this record by Larry Levan. You know, the guy was saying you can't hide love. Oh, that's David Joseph. So if you didn't know your music, you weren't working at Vinyl Mania. You had to know your dance music. You had to know it. If people will come in and go, you know, I heard this record, boom, 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 boom. Oh, maybe that's Jimmy Bohorn. Is it in? You know, um, so you had to know your music. And if you didn't know it, you weren't working at Vinyl Mania Records. So I'm proud to say that I was part of helping Charlie catapult his store to the point where every DJ, including Larry Levan, including David Mancuso, will come in and look for records. Um, so yeah, we were at the right place at the right time. Um, so uh, and in a few years' time, we had every DJ in town coming in from Jelly Bean, uh, DJs from overseas, from England, from the UK will come and shop at our store. We were just getting DJs from all over the country. Robbie Leslie. I mean, the list goes on, man. There was so many that used to come in there, and we just happened to um, also experience a very sad time at Vinyl Mania too, where we saw a lot of our clientele who were gay because we were right in the heart of the village. We saw a lot of them just, you know, never come back or hearing that they passed away. Um, you know, it was the start of the AIDS epidemic, and to be in the heart of the village at that time was really it put a stress on all of us. You know, to see a lot of our good friends and uh, customers, um, other well-known DJs, Sergio Monzabai being one of them, Jonathan Fearing, another one, just passed away from AIDS. And you know, it was a hard time. That was what, 1982, 83, somewhere around there, the AIDS epidemic. Yeah. So um, it was a hard time going through that, you know, being in the village and you know just hearing, oh yeah, this guy not coming back, you know, he passed away from AIDS and so on. So yeah, being at that location was great because we were literally what 2 blocks down from the Paradise Garage. So people will come out and we'd make sure that we'd have those doors open by 10 o'clock in the morning just as people were getting out. And a lot of times people would just be waiting outside the store, waiting for the gates to open, to come in and shop around. Oh, Larry played this last night. Hey, do you have this record, Heartbeat, that I heard Larry play? It was still a test pressing. It was still, it was not out yet. So that was a record we had to wait weeks for to get in. When we finally got it, we were selling it, I don't know, maybe 2,000 at a time. Yeah, we were just blowing it out the door. Heartbeat was a great record for us to sell. You know, had Larry's stamp right on it. Um, yeah, and also back then we were selling a lot of promos, and there were some people that just weren't crazy. We were selling their promos. One of them was Mel from West End, um, and he didn't like the fact that we were selling promos, especially when he come in and see it, you know, up on a wire or whatever. Hey man, you know, somebody sold it to us, we're gonna sell it. That's it. Get over it. Yeah, but you know, we those were great times, man. You know, get to know all the DJs from my record pool, that for the record, they would come there to shop, and then we'd be chatting, about the latest releases and so on. It was a family, man. It was like a family. Judy Weinstein, when she first opened that record pool, I think it was 1978. There were only, I think, 20 members when she first opened it. So yeah, and it became the most famous DJ record pool in the country. It had all the who's who's, the top DJs, David Morales, Jelly Bean, Larry Levan, yeah, me, Danny Krivit, um, T. Scott, Bruce, Bruce Forrest, the who's who of DJs, Francois, all of them were part of that record pool. So I'm proud to say I was a part of that, and I miss it. I miss those days, going in there and just grabbing all my records and going home, listening, and just figuring out what you're going to play that night. It was an excitement, man. It was an excitement. So yeah, getting back to, because I'm going all over the place, just getting back to Vinyl Mania. Um, we got to the point where we were buying collections um, of DJs that passing away too. That was hard. That was a hard thing to do when you're buying a collection of records because the family wants to um, bury their loved one, and you have to go through those records, and nothing but memories of that person. So that was a tough thing to do, having to do that, and then have to turn around and price it and sell it, knowing that someone passed away from AIDS that loved music, or was a DJ, making others happy with music. So yeah, we had our highs and lows at vinyl. And later on we got Manny and Judy, who were really, they were the ambassadors of the Paradise Garage. I was already working 2 or 3 jobs. I was going to the Paradise Garage, but always after work, and I'd stay for a little while, then split. Manny and Judy were more like there, for many hours at a time, um, and just being, I guess, representing Vinyl Mania, like that. So Larry got to be good friends with them. Larry just got to be good friends with the store in general, with Charlie. Yeah, he was part of our family, I gotta say. Um, so yeah, and to see Larry come in, was always a joy to see him come in, buying an import or something that he wanted to get his hands on. That was amazing. Be able to see him walk in. Hey, Larry's here. Oh, get out that import. See, make sure he gets it. Yeah, yeah. And of course, Larry got comped with everything, man. You want Larry to come in your store. Yeah, you want Larry to come into your store. And if Larry was coming into your store, his followers were going to come there to buy records too. So yeah, yeah, those were great times, man. I mean, yeah,
Talk to us
we
about the sense of, I feel like the loft and the garage are more than just clubs or a sense of community. Talk about that aspect of nightlife.
it was almost like going to church, because a lot of the parties would take place um, on a Saturday night, and they go into Sunday morning. So it, it's interesting you say a sense of community. It was like a sense of community, like a family almost. Um, like, remember when you used to go to, I remember when I used to go to church, you see the same people, you talk, and, hey, how you doing? How's the family? But, well, it was the same way between the loft and the garage. Um, you know, these people were die-hard music lovers. They would just stay for hours, and, just, um, if Larry would let a record fade out, people would start screaming, Larry, Larry. And before you know it, you have hundreds of people screaming his name, Larry, come on, Larry. You know, he would do it purposely. He would just let the record fade out and see what they would do, you know, in the dark. He wouldn't have lights on. Everybody would be in the dark. So yeah, there was a sense of that sort of community because it was members only. We got to know each other. The dancers got to know each other. The dancers would, you know, of course, be dancing with each other every weekend. So they got to know each other. It became like a family. There was one time where Larry played till like midday, and everybody got on these huge buses and went to Jones Beach to get, you know, yeah. So um, yeah, there was like I said, like you know, it became like family. Um, and a lot of the customers that came to Vinyl Mania, you got to know them. You got to know about their families too, about what they did. Um, and yeah, and they got to know you, you know. They can trust you in knowing that if they come in looking for a record, that you'll find it for them. So yeah, we were like a service to that community, and as far as you know, giving them the music that they wanted to have, and you know, we made it our business to know um, everything that Larry and David was playing, and if it was a record that Larry was working on, um, you know, we'd find out from Larry, you know, how soon do you think it's going to come out? 2 weeks? Will it be a month? Like that. And then we just pass that along to um, the customers that would come in and say, hey, listen, you know, I'm hearing this record at the garage. Oh, yeah, that's that one. And that'll be out in 2 weeks. That's what we're told. So, yeah, they were informed. And we wanted to make sure that um, his dancers, their dancers, were informed about the music that they were they were playing. Yeah. Um, and you know, I miss those days, man. I do. I miss working with, you know, being in there with people, being in a crowd, you know. It's just so different now. It's not the same, man. It's not. It's not. And
Compared, oh, sorry, go ahead.
and you know, and the fact that I'm still alive to talk about it is a beautiful thing because a lot of our friends and a lot of our families are no longer with us. And you know, and I guess I can talk about the legacy, um, you know, of those times. You know, when you see documentaries now on, you know, on Studio 54 or the dance music scene or whatever, um, you know, it's always with the same people. I mean, there are others that experience this. You know, these directors or you know people in charge of doing these documentaries need to go out there and talk like to a Cat Ayala, you know, who was there, who was a dancer first on, you know, talk to her, you know, um, talk to guys like me, like Charlie, you know, um, we were in the thick of it. So it's always the same guys like Jelly Bean, you know, Nicky Siano. I mean, you know, a lot of more people out there that can talk about their experience. Um, I'm sorry, Moema. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, oh, thank you for sharing. Around at the time of the garage, there was also a club called the Saint. So explain to people what the Saint was and how did the clientele at the Saint compare to the Paradise Garage?
The Saint was mostly a white gay club, a white men's gay club, located, I think it was on Second Avenue in the East Side, Second and like 8th Street, I think it was. Um, and they had it was a massive space. Um, and it was a massive space with a massive sound system, but it wasn't anything like the Paradise Garage sound system. It was, I think it might have been a bigger club than the Paradise Garage, but it had like more like the Palladium type lighting system with stars and the planets and that sort of thing. And the sound system wasn't as, you know, it was more like very mid-rangey, very little bass to it. But the difference between the Saint and their DJs were that in the Saint, they would play what's called high energy music. Um, um, you know, it was where Larry is playing more R&B dance. Theirs was more like a Euro type, um, uh, high energy. Hard to describe the difference as far as the music goes. But their music was more European, whereas ours was more Paradise Garage, the Loft was more R&B American like that. A lot of their stuff was imports too. Um, um, Hazel Dean, High Energy, Evelyn Thomas, just a few records that places like the Saint, Tantra, the Hills of Kathmandu. This is music that Larry never played, but Robbie Leslie or uh, any of the other DJs that were playing there did. Henry Winslow was one. So yeah, it was a difference between really where the Paradise Garage was more black, Puerto Rican, Dominican, gay, and straight. The Saint was more all white and all gay. Um, Including their DJs. So yeah, that was the difference. But we had both of those clientels coming to Vinyl Mania. We got to know what those DJs like Robbie Leslie were playing there. Because some of our staff will go to the Saint and listen in and say, oh, they were playing this, they were playing that. We got to get this, like that. So we had staff members really spread out, reporting back, and we'd buy the records and sell them. Charlie was a genius with that. He'd make sure that we'd have the right amount of records in there to appeal to both the Paradise Garage, the Loft, and the Saint. So we had that mix of clientele coming in, and again, all over the world too, started coming in. So once people hear, oh, there's this record store, it's playing everything that's selling everything that the Saint is playing, selling everything that the Paradise Garage is playing. They want to be a part of that, and it became a world-renowned dance music store. At one point, we had I think 6 stores open, 6 Vinyl Manias. Yeah, one on the Upper West Side. But yeah, and that was the difference. Um, and Charlie, for him to close that store, I know it had to kill him. I know it. He lived and breathed it. So, I went on also. I moved on to, I became a civil servant and peace officer, and had to support my family. So, but
Before
I
you
still love the music, as you can see.
before you made that transition, uh, tell us what was your experience like working at Le Trapeze slash Plato's Retreat?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tell people
Late trip,
tell people what those were.
yeah, late trapeze, and Plato's Retreat was what you would call swingers clubs, where couples who go there, they were membership only, by the way. Plato's Retreat and late trapeze was members only, so you had to apply and you had to, um, I guess, get a screen before you actually um, uh, got into the club. They didn't just allow anybody to go in there, but they were swingers clubs. Couples will go in there and swap their partners with others, and that's really pretty much what they did all night long. And you know, they'd be 200 naked people dancing in front of me. That was a trip. Yeah, yeah. But they didn't have to worry about getting their clothes wet with the sweat, that's for sure. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, that was an interesting time. I mean, listen, back then, I had gotten married. My kid, my first kid was born in '79. I took on any job I could. to make that money. And late trapeze came up. I said, I'll take it. Do naked people bother me? Nah, nah. You know, you get used to it, believe it or not. At first, I was like, wow, look at that. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, but mostly couples going in there just swapping with each other, and you know, I was a good boy.
How long were you at how long were you at both clubs?
Trapeze, I was there 2 years. Lake Trapeze, I was there 2 years. Yeah, Plato's Retreat, that was Bacho's spot. So Bacho, he was a little wild guy. He got involved with couples as well. I didn't do none of that. Nah. It was about the music for me. I just wanted to play my records and get out of there. That's really what it was about for me. With late trapeze, I just, I wanted to, I was hustling. I was doing the two jobs, working, and then I got the job in Brooklyn. So I was working Cadavers. I was working late trapeze. Cadavers was a small club in Brooklyn, owned by, oh, 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 Paul Jabara's cousin, Richie. Paul Jabara, if you don't know, he was the writer of Last Dance. He also released a few albums on Casablanca. Um, his cousin Richie opened a club in Brooklyn. I was in DJ there, working late trapeze, working Vinyl Mania. So yeah, I was hustling to make the money. So again, my family. So I had to take whatever job I could, you know, just so I can help pay the bills. When you got a kid, 1 years old, you got to produce, and um, those were tough times, man. Hustling jobs like that, yeah. And there were times where I just jump around. I do one night here, one night there, jump around, go to work the next morning, do the nightclub, do the late trapeze. From there, go to the Paradise Garage, walk out at 9 o'clock in the morning to go right to work at Vinyl Mania. That was great. Yeah, those are great times, man. Yeah, but clubs were different back then. They were the swing clubs. I don't think they exist anymore. I'm not sure they even exist anymore. Um,
What
Especially,
would you play? Like, tell me about like how would you structure the night musically, or like just talk to people about like as a DJ, you know, how would you think about playing music there?
mostly, I couldn't play anything really fast. It was mostly like, low beat per minute. That's really what I played mostly. My sets wouldn't go any faster. I think my peak record would be 115 beats per minute. But I would just keep the pace slow. And at times, I'd also play ballads and love songs because, you know, these are couples that are going into these places. They're drinking, they're having a good time, smoking, and you want to try to keep it as you want to do a party atmosphere, but also keep it, just keep a mood to it. A lot of um, lower beats per minute, and that's how I would start like at 92 beats per minute, and then slowly work my way up. A few hours later, up to 115 beats per minute, and then bring it right back down again, and then just start it over. And that was mostly how I did my sets back then. And then in between, once I peaked, I just then throw in a couple ballads, slow songs, which they loved. They loved. Uh, a lot of the ballads, slow songs. So I don't even know if clubs even play those anymore. Um, but yeah, ballads were a big thing back then. Couples want to hear slow songs. They want to dance with each other. They want to hold each other. You know. Um, but yeah, that was the kind of stuff that I was playing at late trapeze. You have to keep it, kind of. It's sort of a mood kind of thing. Anything kind of, and anything low in beats per minute was great. Um, So yeah, nothing fast, nothing like, You Make Me Feel Mighty Real by Sylvester. Yeah, I couldn't play anything fast like that. Yeah. It had to stay like within, that slower, more laid back kind of, you know, mood. Even Summer Madness, for example, was a big record that I played there. They loved that. Kool and the Gang. That was all, slow, laid back, and I would close off my set with that. Um, yeah, and listen, you never get used to seeing people do freaky things. People, strangers, right there. Sometimes they do it right there on the dance floor or the couches that were right there on the side, and I just pretend like I didn't see nothing.
That was my next question. Is like, what's the most surprising or unexpected thing you saw at Le Trapeze, or the other club?
Oh, Les Trapeze. Um, um, I would probably say a guy one guy doing like six people, women, going from one on a couch right across, right next to my DJ booth. So he went from one to the other to the other to the other, and then back and forth like that. Never saw something like that before. That was weird. Yeah, yeah. This dude, big dude, he was just, and they were just laying there waiting on him, and yeah, mm, mm, not my thing, but I couldn't wait to get home, man, to be honest with you. Again, my kid was about a year old. Um, my thing was just, do what I got to do, and I wanted to just get home, man. My kid. It was all new to me. It was all new to me. So I uh, just do that. I gotta say that most DJs, like I know Morales has kids. I know that Jelly Bean has kids, but they came later on when like Jelly Bean, the guy made money. I mean, he was, he made a lot of money. But he became a father later on. I became a dad early on, which at some point I had to just walk away from. But when I think about it, I could have been another Danny Krivit. I could have been maybe a David Morales had I not had kids. So, but that's okay. I'm enjoying my life, and I think I've had a great life so far. You know, no regrets, brother. No regrets. None. None.
If you could sum up the essence of the club scene during the garage and loft era, what would it be?
Hmm. If I could sum up. Hmm. I would say for the garage and the loft, um, it was more like a family. Like if you went out to a club, like to a Studio 54, you went out with friends. You didn't know anybody in there. Um, with garage and the loft, all those people that went dancing all got to know each other, all got to dance with each other, all would become friends. Um, some of them lifelong friends. Um, that and they've met there and go out with each other. Where if I was to sum it up, I would have to say that it was more like um, like a community, um, a dance music community. That's the only way I can describe it. Um, a community of dance music, a, a community of people who love dance music, and who spend hours on a dance floor. You know, um, you don't get that in other places. You wouldn't get that in other places. But Moema, what I wanted to just show you is I wanted to just show you some of the albums that we sold at Vinyl Mania, because I pulled these out today. All right, here we go. Touch and Go 12-inch. Okay, you claim to be my man, but you see me when I can. Okay, 12-inch. That went for good money. Here we go. Mainline, Black Ivory, classic garage record, classic loft record. That went for a lot of money. Believe it or not, the Spanish version of Ain't No Stopping Us Now, Charanga. Okay, this was rare back then. This went for like about $40 back then in 1982. Okay, this album right here, New Birth, Got to Get a Nut, always on the wire, always on the wire. Okay, people loved it. Now, I also want to mention that there was a lot of our clientele at Vinyl Mania would only buy promo only 12 inches or albums. They had to be promo, they had to be white label, or they wouldn't buy it. If it said promo only on the cover, like here, right? But the label was red, like a commercial copy, they wouldn't buy it. It would have to be a promotional copy like this, right? With the promotional white label. So we had a lot of those collectors come in. I mean, they were passionate about it, man. They were passionate. What new promos did you get this week? Can I go look through them? And they would pay you top dollar. They would pay you top dollar. Some of the other stuff that we sold on the wire. Here we go. City, Country, City. War. That was always on the wire. Okay. This. Evolution. A classic garage record. It was hard to get back then. I don't know about now. This was always on the wire. Hard to get. Okay. Walking on Thin Ice. Yoko Ono. Chantal Curtis. Okay. Hitman was the garage record. This was hard to get, even back then. And last but not least, the Jackson 5. This album. Always on the wire. Always. Yep. So there you go. I pulled those records out because I was dying to just show you well, what we had on the wires back then and what was popular and what people were looking for. But getting back to the promo guys, we had a lot of them. A lot of them happened to be DJs too, who would just collect promos. All they did was collect promo 12 inches on West End or promo 12 inches Atlantic. Everything that Atlantic released on a 12-inch, they had to have. And at one point, Atlantic was just releasing their 12 inches promotional only. So, a lot of them have become collector's items, like the 12-inch of Devil's Gun, or we got our own thing. Those things have become collectibles and sought after. But, we would be there to make sure these customers would get what they want. Yeah. And I really miss digging through collections and finding those things. I wish I could go back and just, buy those collections that we were buying back then and, pricing them, putting them up on the wire. It was a thrill, man. It was a thrill. It was a thrill.
Do you go out today? And if so, where do you go?
To buy records, I really don't buy records anymore, but believe it or not, I look around in thrift shops and see what I can find there, because that's where records mostly end up from collections. They end up in the thrift store. Someone passes away or someone is moving. They don't want the records. They give them away to a thrift store. And I found many there. And by the way, I do have a little side gig where I do sell records online, Discogs. So that hasn't, that stays, it's in my blood, bro. I got to sell vinyl, or else I'm not happy. So I have a little Discogs record store called Vinyl Staff that I still sell records on. So yeah, still continues with me. Charlie too. Charlie too. Yeah. So look, I think in 1986, 87, 86, 87, I sold my entire collection. I was moving. I sold it right to Charlie. I mean, he must have gotten some really, really great 12-inch releases. I don't know what he did with them, but he won't tell me, but that's okay. That's all right. That's okay. But I sold everything at one point. Just wanted to just move on, and it was all over my house. It took up half my apartment, so I got rid of them. It's a shame. I wish I still had them.
And then talk to me about going out nightlife and clubbing. Do you go out these days? If so, where do you go? And if not, why not?
Yeah, I don't go out anymore. COVID-19 changed that for me. I saw a very good friend of mine uh, die from COVID-19, um, and his death traumatized me. Um, we were really tight, really good, tight friend of mine. Um, and uh, once he passed away, I stopped going out altogether. And I mean, I'll go little parties here and there. If they're outside, I'll go. But I think the last party that I went to was a party that Victor Rosado played at Lincoln Center. Um, he played outside in Lincoln Center, and that was the last time really that I went out. I mean, I'd like to go maybe to Joey and David DePino's garage reunion. Maybe I'll do that. Buy some tickets and go. Um, but that was last year when I went to see Victor Rosado, and haven't been out. I'm 69 years old, man. I don't have the moves I used to have. you know. But like I said, I'm more careful now. Uh, I don't want to catch a virus and pass away. So, I know I'm being paranoid and whatnot, but it's a reality for me. With my friend Daryl's death, man, he didn't know he had COVID. He thought he had some kind of bad pneumonia and that he was going to go home. So, stuff like that, well, Emma, sticks with you, brother. Sticks with you, stays with you. This guy was, me and him were tight. Um, and I miss him. Daryl Murray was his name. So, yeah, I
What
think
advice?
Charlie might have bought his collection when he passed away.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for the next generation?
Oh, man, put down the phone. Put down the phone and listen to the music. That's my best advice. Get into the music, get into the vibe. Put away the phone. They're more, they got this in their hand. They're more interested in that. But yeah, my advice is to new generation, get into the music, listen to what's being played. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Don't get distracted with the phone. Put it away. You'll live. That's my advice. Shut it off, put it in your pocket, and jam to the music. That's it. That's my advice to the younger generation. Um, go out there because I mean, there's still some great music coming out. But even some vinyl, I coming out. But I do need to get out some and see, you know, what's going on out there. And I have some friends like Elvin Reyes, he'll take me out. Um, Danny Crivet doesn't invite me out anymore. Anyway, I'd love to see him. But yeah, that's my best advice. Just, put the phone down, listen to what's being played, and enjoy it. I mean, technically, if you're going to a club or if you're going to see a DJ, listen to what he's got to play. I mean, you might like it. That's my advice. That's my advice. And you look familiar. I think we met before.
We probably have. We've probably seen each other in the club scene. I probably maybe at Vinyl Mania at some point too. I
Yeah.
wasn't a regular, but um, I'm sure we've crossed paths because everyone you've mentioned I've crossed paths with. So
Okay.
um,
Okay. Well, look, um, I'd love to see some of the old crowd again. Unfortunately, a lot of those great guys have died off, but I'd love to see, um, Joey, David, I see them on Facebook, but, you know, we, we don't really interact in person anymore.
mm,
Maybe I'll change that for their party that's coming up, I think, September 1st, the Paradise Garage reunion party. I think it's September 1st. I should get on the ball and buy some tickets, or buy a ticket, because my wife, she's, you know, she's a quiet person. She's yeah, she's a good church girl. Yeah, she wouldn't understand that. But they say opposites attract. So here we are.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that really quick. What was it like when you're in a relationship, but the club scene is such an important part of your life? How did you find that balance?
Believe it or not, my wife, um, she's the first to tell me, hey, go out there, and if you want to go, have fun, go see your friends. She's very supportive that way. For her, loud music, really, she's got a thing with her hearing. So, yeah, she can't be in like loud environments. So, um, um, but she is very supportive of me. And if I want to go somewhere, she'll certainly, give me the green light. She's got no problem with it. If anything, she also supported me with my DJ thing. I had bought a little DJ setup, and I started doing it again. But I kind of moved away from it once COVID hit. But I may come back to that again. But to answer your question, my wife has been really supportive with me, with me, with, going out to a club, or hunting for records, or hanging out with old friends. Yeah, she's blessing to be married to this woman. Yeah, yeah. She's a good friend. Most of all, she's a good friend. So yeah, I've been lucky, man. I've been lucky in my life. I have a great family. I got great kids. I got a great wife. I have good friends. I'm in fairly good health. And I get to meet nice people like you. So yeah, I am blessed, brother.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. Thanks for the fantastic interview.
Thank you, sir. And God bless you and everyone out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.